Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. It's welcome to Consulting Leaders. Thank you so much for coming. Let's just jump straight into it. What got you into consulting?
Thanks, Guillaume. It's really great to be here on your call on this interview. I have had a long career at mostly corporate, although I started as an engineer. And so I had lots of different experiences in different technology industries and companies. And about 5 years ago, just had a light bulb go off that I was ready to, I'd seen a lot, and I'd seen some common challenges with leaders, especially what I call accidental CEOs, the technical leaders that become CEOs. And I wanted to help them. So I created a business, B2B Clarity, and I help these accidental CEOs kind of figure out how to grow their business.
What would you say? So Hussam, my co-founder, he's an engineer by training, and he used to work at Procter and Gamble before we got into this. And we were like, I think the last 5 or 6 CEOs at P&G at the time were all marketing people, like no people who started in engineering. So it's like promote from within, and then you just grow. But as an engineer, you would like be kind of stuck at the highest level, but not quite CEO, because it would most of the time be marketing or the CFO becoming the CEO. So what's the proportion of technical profiles becoming CEOs? Do you have that stat?
I don't. It surprises me how many there are.
Oh, really?
Maybe it's partly because this is one of the wonderful things about being a consultant. I don't need thousands of clients, right? It's a very small sample size that's really the opportunity for me. So I have found that, my process is I know where the watering hole is. I know, where they hang out. And there are so many, and they have so much in common. So yeah, it hasn't been an issue for me to find them.
That is super interesting. Okay, fair enough. Well, when the pool is big enough, that's where you want to be, I guess.
Exactly.
So can you, although that was a bit in the explanation and the introduction, but can you break down what problem you're solving and for whom specifically? Obviously, we are clear on the who already.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So these accidental CEOs, I have found some real common challenges. And my observation is that a lot of them come back to this identity they have, this experience of being a technical expert. And to sum it up, as CEO, they're focused on the doing and not really the who they are, the being, right? The company and themselves. So that means activity becomes the metric, and they're overly busy. Their team has too many priorities. And if you step back from what they're doing in the market, their communications, even their products, I'd like to say it's almost like they're soulless, right? They're focused on what they can do, the capability and the specs and the, function. Where what I found in my experience is companies that break through, products that scale, are ones that have a purpose to the target audience. They're meaningful, right? They're valuable for that client. The CEOs that are accidental CEOs tend to say, "Hey, prospect, let me tell you what I have here. It's awesome. And it does this and this and this." And it does. It's really cool. It's often, maybe almost always, a great solution. But that client isn't ready to hear about how, what you make. They need to hear that you can help them with a problem. So it has to start with this, how I can help you. And that's the biggest gap. And the first thing we work on is making that true connection with the client.
How big of a problem is it? Like, I'm always interested into when we break down offerings, right? You arrive as an accidental CEO, meaning you were probably not ready for the role. There are lots of things that you don't know about the company. You probably have like a gazillion fires to extinguish. How much of a problem do you think it is to help those accidental CEOs solve? Like, what's the, vitamin versus painkillers? You'd rather
Yes.
sell the
Yep.
painkillers. How do you approach this in your practice?
I think, as you said, there's a lot of fires, and the natural tendency for all of us is to put out fires. But I have found that there will always be fires, that they'll never all go out. Now, granted, some companies are in trouble and they have to make a change. The people I typically am talking to, they have a good business. They have revenue. The product works. Their customers like what they do. But there's the fire they have, the problem they have, it's usually not existential. It's usually, we want to scale and we can't. We can't find that new set of prospects. Prospects can't find us, right? They're struggling with the growth, with the scaling. And that fire, if you keep fighting the fires, to my earlier point, you miss the core missing piece, which is this, what I call true story, the intuitive, gut instinct understanding of how you can help me. And that's what breaks through the noise, especially, in this world of AI slop and, full email boxes and all the social channels. It's harder and harder to break through.
Yeah, amen to that. And that is true. So who would typically be the type of person that you help? The reason I'm saying this is there a particular stage, size, in terms of company or team or ACV? Like, who's the right fit to get coached as an accidental CEO in your experience, Pete?
In my experience, the at least where I see that the help I can help that we just described, they're at revenue. They've found the product market fit. I mean, they're not wandering they're not lost in the desert. They have a model that works. They're typically the scale. We could talk in ACV if we wanted to, and revenue of single millions is probably in the middle. Could be bigger, could be 50 million, 100 million, but more, I guess, a better way for me to gauge if they're the people I can help is their span of control. So if their team is still small enough that they're managing that team directly, that problem doesn't surface so much. It's when they're trying to scale and they can't be in the room in all the meetings and they can't direct all the people. That's where the lack of a clear anchoring truth for the business from the CEO, that missing, means that people are, chaotic. They're not on the same path. They're not doing the same thing. They don't have the same priorities. And then all the issues outside that we talked about. So that's typically the kind of company. They have something, but they can't scale.
So would it be accurate to say that a CEO that is so at revenue, found their product market fit, raised some money, but they don't have a leadership team in place yet, so that they are still pretty involved in managing the people actually delivering the work? Is that the sweet spot of where you're gonna
No,
need
I'd say
something?
it's maybe the point where they have that management
Okay.
team and it's not functioning the way they want it to.
Got you. Makes sense. So in your particular case then, Pete, and that's I think what's coming back to one of my first questions around, hey, how many people actually become CEOs was being technical in the first place? How do clients find you, and what has worked for you to attract the accidental CEOs to become aware of what you do, problem aware as well, and solution aware? How do you brand, market all this?
Well, I try to live what I preach. And so one thing I do is I invest in thought leadership. So I spend time going to where these accidental CEOs are. And rather than talking about me or what I can do or my services or my frameworks, I talk about solutions to issues that accidental CEOs have. So for example, on LinkedIn, I do a weekly short video, 3 minutes, and it's me on a screen like this, and I'm sharing just a little insight about here are 3 ways to think about funding at this level, or here are 5 mistakes that accidental CEOs make when it comes to their messaging, those kind of tidbits of insight. And my focus, it's very clear, it's offering them ideas. And to me, that's a really important way for me to show up, how I can help them, give them a taste of my expertise and not really ask for anything. So that works. I get people that come to me having seen that and clicking with it, or feeling like, oh yeah, that really makes sense to me. I want to talk to Pete. Another way is referrals. In this market we're talking about, CEOs are very, very, in my belief, is the people we're talking about, they make a lot of decisions based on their trusted colleagues. So I find that's a really important channel for me as well in working with them. I think those are the most important ones, those 2. I've written 2 books, and that's part of the thought leadership, I think, but that's also another tool a way for me to share, and a way for people to hear my point of view.
Like it. So thought leadership through very targeted, specific content that speaks directly to your ICP's pain points and desired outcomes. And obviously referral. So I like to say B2B coaches and consultants, that's the first and usually the main way of acquiring customers. Like, you do a good job, normally you get referrals because you deliver well, and then you can grow steadily like this. But when you want to put that growth on steroid, it's good to have another or a couple other acquisition channels. And in your case, that would be content. I think books are really good as well to get the people through the door, becoming aware of what you do, and then you can then take them further down the funnel. So,
and Gil, can I add, podcast
please.
Interviews like this are also another great way to share my perspective and valuable ideas.
So a bit of a curveball for you then, Pete. How do you make sure you go on podcasts that have an audience of accidental CEOs?
Well, I spend a lot of time understanding who they are, the characteristics they have. So, for example, accidental CEOs have a technical degree or domain expert degree. So they might be a political scientist as well as an engineer. And then they're leading a company as a CEO for usually the first time. So there are people that are on their 6th company, right? And that's not my target. And then also there's a founder community, and that's an overlap. But as we said before, they're not really ready for the solutions that I have to offer either, right? So knowing all of that, I'm able to work with podcast services and other consultants and my admin, and we're able to, with research, find a fit with audiences for podcasts.
That does make a lot of sense. So how do you have those multiple ways of making your brand and your personal brand renowned, right, from your ICP? So they go from stranger to, okay, I know what Pete does, and I'm also becoming aware of the problem that I'm facing that I couldn't necessarily put the finger on in the first place. So that's helpful. How do you get them from that to, the finish line? What does the sales motion look like from, okay, I'm an accidental CEO who has a gazillion fires to extinguish at the time, and I need help. How do you get them from that to SOW, letter of engagement, we rock and roll?
For me, patience is the first word. I've been weak at times, and I've been tempted to try to skip a step or push forward on things, and it rarely ends well. So what I mean by patience is, from experience, I know that I need to understand their situation very clearly, and sincerely judge, can I help them or not? So there are times, and I'll say that up front when we have a discovery meeting, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm going to learn about your business. And then based on that, if I can help you, I'll suggest I'll offer you some proposals options. But if I can, I'll tell you that too, and I'll point you to somebody that maybe could help you. So backing up a little bit, that process I have that works, it usually follows the steps of, first, let's have an introductory meeting. Either somebody introduced us or for however, just to kind of make sense of each other, right? Does it make sense for us to invest some time to see if I can help them? And that is the next meeting, which is a discovery meeting, which I mentioned. And I really learn about the parts of their business that tell me if I can help them with what I do or not. And you mentioned the fires. Typically, as I said, the fires, it's one dull burn, which is we want to grow and we can't. There's a lot of hot little ones that usually are just not. I encourage them to, that's not what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on the dull burn. And then from that, I come back, if there's a match, I come back with a proposal. And usually it's 2 or 3 options of ways that we might work together for them to evaluate. I find if I do all those steps, I'm able to understand with high certainty if I can add value to them. And then I'm able to give them an opportunity to evaluate, is that investment worth it for them in the outcome? And also I can kind of express the value that they might get from that as well, quantify the ROI. So, and then if they want to do one of those things, we're off and on our way.
So, as many B2B coaches and consultants, the sales cycle is pretty long, right? Mm-hmm. How do you keep those prospects once you've identified that you can help them, obviously, right? Which is probably happening somewhere between introductory and discovery meeting. Once you understand, like, okay, this is someone I can help. How do you keep them engaged? So you have this like scheduling the next meeting and like getting to know each other further and like highlighting much more what we can help on or not. But like, do you have some, I don't know, email nurturing sequence in place? Do you have some like resources out there that you point them towards? You interview on a lot of podcasts, right? So do you like, hey, by the way, based on our discussion, this resource might be useful for you. Like, how do you nurture those leads up until they say, yes, we are working together?
So I have a broad nurture, which is more for the people that are earlier in the process for me. So maybe even before we've met, or if we've met, actually more common if we've met, but they haven't identified a need that we should do a discovery meeting, which there's a lot of people in that case. And that is a newsletter email. And I'm going to go back to the power of the content. So my content is almost, besides the books, and the interviews, is these short videos that I do. And I have over 200 of them now. And it's a library, right? And it's over time, I've built up this asset base. So my newsletters are one of my videos from half a year ago, and with a little commentary about it. And then maybe mentioning a podcast interview, right? Every 2 weeks that goes out. So that's everybody that is on my list, right? To keep me in their minds. But notice that the theme here, I'm not asking for anything. I'm giving them hopefully valuable insights, or at least ideas. Likewise, once I know them, once we get to know each other, now I have a clearer understanding of specifically the issues they have. And now that outreach is individual and personalized. So I might send an email to them, but it's now I handpick a video or something else. And then I tell them, hey, when we talked, you mentioned so-and-so, this video might be helpful with that. So it's another level of intimacy. And in this world today, right, it's so unusual to get an email like that, a nurture email that's not for anybody else. So that's how I do that. Yeah, I think that's probably the most important part there, is just to keep reminding them of the help, but continuing to help. I do get tempted to do the, hey, just want to check in and which I've just found the less I can do that, the better off in the long term. It's letting go of the outcome, find a way to give, and trust that if it's there, it'll activate. Hard to do though.
we are often tempted to be like, so have you signed that letter of engagement yet? So there are a few things that I want to double down on here because that's really valuable. Thanks a lot for sharing these bits. So the first thing is newsletter. Email is still one of the best way to get read by your audience. If you capture their email address, it means they showcase interest at some points. Obviously, you need to make it easy to unsubscribe, not spam people. But having that one, maybe 2 emails per week, right, with value-packed insights in it. I'm not saying an email to say, have you signed that letter of engagement yet? But more like, hey, look, like, here is something that one of my clients found valuable that I thought I'd share. Or like, hey, here is something that I talked about in a presentation or in a podcast that I thought I'd share. So like having those reminders throughout the client's journey and prospect journey is super, super valuable. Case studies, anything that you can share to showcase an outcome, to solve the pain points is super, super good. The other thing that you mentioned that I want to double down on is repurposing content. Like having those 3 minutes videos and 6 months later sending a newsletter email about it is genius, because it is very likely that people receiving that version of the newsletter, that edition, haven't watched a 3 minutes video 6 months ago. And it's like you are repurposing content without having to do more effort. People need to be reminded more than they need to be taught anyways. So like having those reminders and this content leverage from the videos is great. And again, it's about staying top of mind, right? When you enter into a discussion, the decision is not going to be made overnight. It's going to take a few weeks, if not a few months. Staying top of mind, reminding them that you're here delivering value and that that's just a small portion of what they could get if you were working with them is really, really good. So I like this soft approach of nurturing leads. Okay, so I think we're clear on offer, who, marketing, sales cycle. One of the things that the partner at PwC taught me during my consulting days was the following. So he said this to me, Pete. It was like, Guillaume, there are 2 types of consultants. There are the hunters and there are the farmers. And he was like, I'm a hunter. I love the smell of fresh blood in the morning. I love to go after new business. And he was like, but the partners growing the fastest and the one that are the most successful are the farmers. The one able to take those initial engagement, over-deliver, and then transform it into a multi-layered, multi-year projects, feeding the whole team, feeding transversal teams within PwC, are the ones who make the most money. Leading to this question, Pete, once you've engaged, right, how do you maximize and optimize for retention with your clients, all whilst providing value, obviously, but like, how do you keep them engaged? How do you transform one engagement into your, a multiple months, if not year coaching? How do you do that in your practice?
Well, I'm going to answer that in 2 ways that are different.
Go for it.
So first, from a theoretical aspect, I've put a lot of work into that concept of extended value for my clients. And I do have a journey that I can help them go on to scale their business where, and this is what the book's about. It's called Radical Clarity. And it's this idea of that a lot of these CEOs are missing that what I call true story that anchors their business. So my process is, first we uncover that true story for their business. And that's an engagement. Then we figure out how to install it in the business, in their people, and in their processes. And then there's a step beyond that of, now how do we, infect the market with that truth? And then beyond that, there's a legacy opportunity. How do I make that meaning survive me exiting the business someday, right? So there's a lot of potential value, incremental value. And so to me, it's pretty easy to translate that into engagements. Now I'm going to answer the other way. And this is maybe valuable for some of the audience here. So I'm at a point in my career that I am focused on, I want to do what I'm best at. I want to contribute in the way I can, the very best. And over the last 5 years, one of the things I learned is my magic, what I'm the absolute best at, is uncovering that truth, the transformative light bulb moment to help them go from confusion to clarity. I love it. They love it. They get huge value from that. And while I can help them further, I found that almost the shorter the engagement, the more satisfying for me. Now, as a consultant, that's challenging because we just talked about finding clients, right? It's hard. So that means I need to find more clients if I'm not going to spend time with them as much. But I'm at the point in my business where my pursuit is to be, I guess you'd call it the hunter from your example. But I find that satisfying myself and delivering the most to my clients is about me struggling with how can I find more people that I can quickly help.
Like it a lot. And that does make sense. And again, the reason I believe this works for you, Pete, is because this is again focusing on value, right? And delivery and showing them like, hey, look, this is what we fixed. This is what's next. This is what's next. And you can build a long-term relationship thanks to this. So clearly you've nailed your craft. You know what you're best at, which I think is super important. Where do you find yourself the most stuck right now as a coach for accidental CEOs?
I think the challenge I have, which I think a lot of people are struggling with right now, is finding a way to break through with an authentic engagement with prospects and I guess prospects, connecting in this world of AI and impersonal, personal looking, impersonal outreach. We're all becoming jaded. My audience for sure is skeptical. And first of all, they assume, as I do, first assumption is the communication I get is from a machine.
Yeah.
So the challenge for me is how do I come through as myself in the way I just explained, that it's important because my value comes from being personal. And so to me, that's the hardest thing, is how to do that in today's ratcheting up communication noise.
So how do you think about solving that? Like the reason I'm asking this is we will have people listening to us right now or when the episode goes live on the podcast platforms who might feel stuck at the same point. I think it's always interesting to hear from your peers how they think about solving a specific problem. So, because I think what you're mentioning right now, we are recording like mid of November 2025. AI is here for like a little while now. It's still not perfect. You can spot it on LinkedIn, right? When someone writes entirely their content out of AI, videos are starting to be very good. Maybe an AI avatar right now. Kidding. That's the real.
Yeah, me too.
But like, right? So how do you approach solving that problem of like building an authentic engagement with the audience and for them not to think, okay, I'm engaging with the robots right now. Maybe if I ask a few questions, it will prompt a real agent and someone to talk to me. How do you go about solving that?
I am leaning into going against the current on that. So I use AI to help me with productivity related things. I think everybody should be doing that. But I am very intentionally focused on finding ways to communicate that are not AI and being clear with people that they're not AI. So my book, I manually wrote the manuscript, right? I wrote the book, and in the book, there's a little icon in the front, human written or something like that. My videos, you're right. At some point, somebody's going to be able to, maybe very soon, somebody's going to be able to make what we're seeing be artificial. But look at society today, even without AI. Why do we go to theater? Why do we go to Broadway? Why do we watch actors on the screen versus, I guess you could say animation or something else? There is value in imperfect human things, achievements. So I'm going to double down on, and I believe this is a path for all of us, is to struggle with how do I stay human and find a way to scale it. That's the hardest part, but stay human, show up human. And I believe there's going to be a backlash. It's already starting where people are saying, I'm just sick of feeds of crap. And if I can find a way, and I don't have the easy answer, Guillaume, but I'm working on showing up in an authentic way so that more and more it will stand out in a positive way in this world of artificial communications. And especially in our business and consulting, it's really about you and your it's about relationship with your client, right? Capabilities applied to the relationship. And so I think it's maybe true for a lot of jobs, but especially in consulting, I am committed to having that be my approach versus how do I send 10x more emails, or how do I, show up on more channels on social. I think it's going to be a rifle shot for me more than a shotgun.
So again, I want to double down on this because this is just so good. As B2B coach, high ticket consultants, we are able to charge that premium because we are considered as the authority, as the SME. People trust that we can deliver the results that we say we can help them achieve. So the day that trust or that authority is not even broken, but like just tainted, and we're not sure anymore, this creates friction. I think, and so here, obviously, I'm a bit preaching from my choir, but I also want to make it a bit more general. There is this study that came out recently where it's like during the Super Bowl, and there is celebrities coming down the stairs, and there is the clapometer. I'm not sure how to say this in English, but like depending on the noise the crowd is making, you can see how popular certain personalities are. And so you have movie stars from the 90s, 2000s going down, and like you have some cheering, you have some clapping because it's like they are renowned. Then comes in the short form content creators, so TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and so on. A bit of a louder cheering, actually much louder than the celebrities from the 2000s. Then you have the YouTubers, the podcasters, the long form content creators, much bigger cheer up. But then, and by far, we are the streamers, and like the stadium explodes. And the reason that is, as it is interpreted by people analyzing this, is as we get into an era where anybody can claim anything on the internet, it's very easy to ultra polish a piece of content, which is what movie star used to do. It's fully scripted, it's edited in post-production, years and years and years to produce a movie, barely exaggerating. When you create that authentic relationship, for instance, via streaming, it cannot be more authentic than this. If I need to repeat my word like I just did, I do it, and people see this, and they see the real, all whilst hopefully getting some value from us, Pete. And so, like, if you find a way to communicate this whilst being time efficient, because this is also the strategy as a consultant, right? Our time is valuable. Getting close to this is super, super important, and that's how, in my opinion, we can break through with authentic engagement. Until, of course, we can have AI avatar streams, which is another discussion. Sure. But I like this a lot. What's so looking ahead for you, Pete? What's the biggest opportunity? Next 3 to 6 months, what are you looking forward to in your business?
I'm excited about what I just talked about, this challenge that we just talked about, the AI, showing up human. I see that as an opportunity with my clients as well. So my next book is going to be about how to show up human in business and for success. How the most human wins is another way to say it. And so I'm excited about that because I like that it's somewhat counterintuitive, and I think it's hard to, just like what I said about less is more and radical clarity. It's hard to do. You have to intentionally do it because you want to just do things. Likewise, it's the first thought is, oh, I'm going to use AI to make more, when I think the opportunity is to use AI to make you more. I just said that. Now I'm going to remember that, because I think that's really what it's about, is AI. It's not about AI. It's about what AI allows you to do as a human, because there's almost an infinite supply of what AI can do, right? And you're not going to win in that flood in whatever business you're in the future.
Amen to that. Pete Steege. Did I pronounce it? Steege. My God.
Yeah.
Steege. Pete Steege, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Raw, authentic. Sorry for butchering your name,
That's it,
Pete.
right.
If people want to find out more about you and what you do, where should they go?
Guillaume, I'm creating a landing page for this episode. Hopefully you can put the URL in.
Sure.
It will be at my website, b2b-clarity.com/consulting. And I'll have some free resources for any of your listeners. There'll be a link to buy my book. There'll be some excerpts from some free resources from the book. And there'll also be a way for you to get in contact with me if you'd like to chat.
We'll absolutely put all the links in the description. As for your profile on LinkedIn, because you're being active there, you've gained at least one connection from this because I just added you. Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Thank you, Guillaume. It was great talking to you today.
Likewise. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.